Recording is on.
Okay, so today is 13th, and we're going to continue our discussion on the Desiderata Extinctionati. And it looks like the agenda today, he posted about how we can best get through to Roger. Did you want to start it off, Hugh, or who? Or was it Gary? I'll let whoever wants to take over.
Yeah, I don't know what level to start the discussion because, well, just to refer back to before this, when Hugh and Mike were talking, one part of the discussion was letting go, which is the hot topic in the spiritual realm. And I think what you can see in Roger, and I'm not blaming Roger for anything that I'm not guilty of too, is that he's got a lot of investment in a certain approach to his activism. And I think it's pretty well must be part of his identity. And, you know, our aim is to sort of have a bit of a talk to him and see if we can get him to be a bit more creative and take a different approach. But I think you're up against a psychological issue with an individual as well as trying to convince him of a different practical path. So, I mean, there's sort of two ways of discussing Roger. Well, one is Roger's degree of spiritual awareness, and the other one is just the practicalities of the fact that XR and burning pink aren't going to work, and at what stage is he going to sort of wake up to that?
Yeah, he may never wake up to that, but it's, in some respects, it's set up as a death cult, so that, you know, eventually the same thing happens, I think, with Jem Bundell, is with that kind of format, you kind of, a cult without knowledge is kind of how I describe it, without esoteric knowledge. You wind up in Jonestown eventually, because you see, if you think about it, there's never a point where you stop. You just, the climate situation gets worse, the next crisis comes along, you get buffeted by crisis after crisis, and you just keep on doing the same old stuff and getting the same low-grade kind of comfort out of it. And so you can do that all the way to the Kool-Aid moment. So
you think he won't reach an endpoint from your point of view? He'll just keep going. You think?
well,
He won't.
he is a cult leader. I mean, that's the attractive part of him, and the reason why it would be nice to get through to him is he is a cult leader, and with a bit of direction, I feel that he's so passionate and he's the real deal. So you don't get a lot of Rogers. There are only one or two in this planet, and so that's valuable. The problem with them is that to be a successful revolutionary, you have to be a mixture. You can't just be one thing or another. You have to be a paradox. And Roger's not enough of a paradox. He's a complete straight arrow. So, for example, he's completely right that you have to be tenacious and resolute and go the extra mile where everybody will give up. You just carry on doggedly doing that. You go like, what was that movie with the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, whatever. But anyway, they go against the 500 horsemen, and the guys are, maybe it was Butch Cassidy, and they're riding towards the 500, and the guys just let fusillades of cannons and bullets, and they're still riding, and they more fusillade, and the dust clears, and they're still riding, and they're like, shit. Eventually they start, the 500 guys start running. These guys just come on running. So you need that tenacity. But it's then like Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, is you need flexibility. So the problem is that you have to know when to use the right tool at the right time. And what an unsuccessful rebel will do is apply the flexibility thing when you're supposed to be rigid, and do the rigid thing and dogmatic thing when you're supposed to be flexible. And so you have to be a complete paradox. All the successful revolutionaries, like say Napoleon or any, Lenin or any of these guys, they were complete paradoxes. Just when you think that now, you're going to see this dogged determinism, then suddenly they're all flexible. it always catches everybody out. And you say, well, after a while, Nafe's studying this and would say, well, these guys are completely random. They just do anything that could, and there's no. They're geniuses. They do exactly the right thing for the right reason. Now, there isn't a formula that says, in this situation, do this. You see, Sun Tzu tries to do that in a war. So in The Art of War as a book is kind of wasted, because you have to either be brilliant or not. But somebody cannot put it together for you in a book. Otherwise, you'd say, oh, what's this situation? Well, where's climate change in Sun Tzu? Okay, and we got to get all these people together, and they've got to rebel, and then basically we'll get action, and then blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, that's not in The Art of War. You have to interpret it and apply it correctly. So in some sense, you either get The Art of War, and then you don't need the book, or otherwise, you're not going to make it anyway. So there's no formula. And then Roger's been looking for years and years for a formula. And Gail Braddock too. She says Roger said to her when she came back from a ayahuasca trip in South America, looking for the code for social change. Then mystically, she made it very mystical, saying, well, Roger said, well, this is the code for social change. And he thinks there's a formula. And it's like, no, there's never a formula. If there was a formula, then they would have already got the counter formula. So it doesn't work like that. So Roger is useful because of the fact that he can, he's so determined and he gets what the problem is and stuff like that. But he needs somebody to do strategy for him, because he just doesn't have a strategic bone in his body.
But is on strategy you'd like to invite him? Is it to discuss that? Have you offered him a team other than a dinner or a trip to Greece? Have you told him really what you'd like to approach?
The whole idea of the trip to Greece was that Roger's not a very good listener. He's so into his role as being an organizer that he can't break out of that role. So you can't get through to him, because he keeps on doing this is a bit of descent that I have to steamroll to get to the path to action. And he's got this tape going on in his head, and you can't say, Roger, listen, shut the fuck up. You need some help. People are trying to help you. This is not the get over the dissent, get around the obstructive left so we can organize and do Gandhi. Shut the fuck up and listen. Basically, none of your stuff has worked. You're all over the place. You admit that all the stuff that you've studied for years and years in college on how to organize people and how to basically do a campaign of civil disobedience is bullshit. Roger admits that, and then carries on doing the bullshit. And you say, like, Roger, you need fucking help, mate. You need somebody to explain the ropes to you. And then you can run off, like, to implement stuff. So there's if you have an administrator and an implementer, someone with charisma that can rouse people, that's very valuable. But that's only 1/10 of a rebel. You still need the other 9/10, and one of those, a major part of those 9/10, maybe 5/10 of them, is being strategic. So he's got one of the planks, and it's kind of frustrating because it's a rarity. And you think, like, if you could just sit him down, get a block of time, get him out of his mode, then you might get through to him. And that was the idea, to get a big block of time. But if you see, the problem is if you get him on a phone call, I've done this, I've spoken to him on Zoom and stuff, and you can't get anywhere because you can't get him to break out of this. I'm the organizer, you're the potential rebel or activist, and I'm persuading you. And they're like, stop persuading you. Don't need to be persuaded. You're not giving me any new information. I know everything you know about the climate crisis. I know everything you know about activism, and as you said, it's all bullshit. Do we have a level set? Now let's talk. But he's kind of resistant to getting to that level set because he kind of doesn't, I think psychologically, he doesn't want to get to that point because he doesn't have any ideas. If everything he's studied so far and all the conventional wisdom is crap, which he knows it is, then he has this cognitive dissonance that he'd say, if he admits that, he's got nowhere to go. I'm saying, like, Roger, you've got plenty of places to go. We'll talk to you and we'll explain where to go next. So you're not on dangerous ground. You're actually liberation from this baggage that you've got. So ditch the baggage and we'll move forward. Because what he's going to do is he's going to carry this baggage all the way down to the Kool-Aid moment. And he doesn't want to do it, and he knows he's doing it. But, like, yeah, it's one of these things where you get these tortured individuals that are such a mishmash of things, but they're the wrong mishmash. If only, the pieces were organized a little, the pieces that constituted the person they are were organized a little differently, you would have Napoleon or something. You would have a great man. But it's just so frustrating that
so you want time with him. You would like to spend time, and I think that would be a very good way for a person like that, because there's the same thing with ARG the other day about, when we were talking, it was just the same kind of character. He was always coming back to things that were so square and so, like he was saying all the time, I'm an organizer as an organizer. And, time.
It's habit. So they get into a rut and they get into this dysfunctional repetitive behavior. And that's what XR is in. They know that banner drops do nothing. They know that everything they're doing is a complete waste of time. But they can't ever admit that, because otherwise where the hell would they go next? They would probably have to do something effective, which is what they don't want to do. And so then they keep on lying to themselves, pretending that raising awareness is doing something, that the CEE bill will get through, and that the policing bill is coming down the pike, and then that's going to shut down XR for good. They don't facing that. It's all this kind of denial behavior. Because they kind of in a comfortable rut. They're not really in Extinction Rebellion to actually be effective and save the planet. They're there for their ego, and that's the ego. You see, the reason why you need a block of time with somebody like Roger is you have to break through his ego, and so it's very difficult. His strength is the fact that he's got a big ego, but it's useless for rebellion, and you can see it in Roger because he's running around doing, Burning Pink and XR, and he starts an organization, then he gets kicked out of it, and he will carry on doing this kind of what amounts to graffiti and petty civil disobedience until his dying day, it looks like. And it's such a waste, I think, to me. I wish I could get a block of time with him and just do a bit of psychotherapy on him, break through his ego, and then open up a whole new world to explore. It's that whole new world of like doing rebellion as an ARG is threatening to people because it's not in control. You see, one of the things in XR is it's ego and it's a control narrative because it's comfortable. They have control over doing these stupid civil disobedience things that are NVDA and banner drops and silly cosplay and all of this stuff. It's in their control. So they like it. But if you do an ARG, well, then suddenly it's a big, scary world. You never know where this is going to get. It's going to challenge your ego. You might not be the same person afterwards. But what they're trying to do is saying, I want to be the same person, but the whole world has to change around me. The whole world has to be nice. There has to be social justice and this long Chinese menu of exactly how the world has to be to fit in with my nice little liberal ego because I have eco-anxiety and I'm precious. And that's the narrative that they're all about. And so they're all fucking useless while they're still in that mindset. But you see, if Roger got out of that mindset, then maybe thousands and thousands of people would follow suit, right? He would lead people through change, through personal change, but he's not changing personally. The great thing, if you look at people they talk about, like Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, the whole thing about those guys is their personal development. Mandela went from being Bin Laden to being St. Patrick. So, that's a hell of a journey. The long road to freedom wasn't a long road to freedom. It was a long road from being an arsehole to being a saint. But like everybody, glosses over that. And Roger's Roger. He's always Roger. He's always been Roger. He's going to stay Roger. He's not developing. He's just going to hammer away at the world, hoping it's changed. It'll change. And it's like, no, there's anybody, even in Sun Tzu, they said, don't hammer away at the world. Everybody says that. So basically you have to wait. You have to wait for time, opportunity. You have to work on yourself, preparing so that when you have your moment, you strike and strike decisively. But there's no preparation going on because it's the same old, ruts that they're in. That's what I think.
Given that he's, I've got a feeling that they won't contact us again after our little effort. I don't know what possibility there is to get another foot in the door. I've got a feeling that we...
Have you shelled out any money, by the way?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't hear it.
Have you shelled out any money? Are you a financial loss on this?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I don't think...
I'm concerned because you mustn't wind up with a financial loss out of this. That ain't cricket.
No, there's no... That's not the issue I'm concerned about. I'm just saying that...
As a matter of principle, you shouldn't. No, I mean, just as a matter of fair play and principle, you shouldn't be...
Oh, you mean just what was used at the auction, that we shouldn't just let that pass? I didn't want to make an issue out of it.
Oh, I would make an issue out of that. Oh, no, that's not on. You can't sprout self-righteousness and holiness like these fuckers do and then play shit like that. No, that is
I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, but we actually got off to a wrong start because when he replied and says, I think he replied, his first email was, when do you want to have the meeting? Or what do you want to do about the meeting? And I didn't even answer the question. I just went straight on to suggesting to him that I think that's when he got the invitation. So I kind of ignored his question. And again, when the second time when he said, well, we'll move on to the dinner or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know if you other people at Mike and Sophie got those emails or not. But again, I realised later that I also ignored that question the second time. So I haven't replied to what we want to do about the meeting or what we want to do about the dinner. Now, I mean, look, you know, maybe we could just revisit the meeting with him and just say, well, we're going to have to do this like we're having now, an online thing. But as you said, he's not going to come across very well. It's a bit futile.
Couldn't
Yeah,
Tom?
but just as a point of order, you can't. Sorry, just as a point of order, you can't be out of pocket on that. You have to get your money's worth for what you got. So we at least have to do that, barring anything.
I'm just wondering whether to just do nothing. Just give them a little bit of rope to hang themselves on that regard. Just wait for a couple of weeks.
No, I think we should badger them.
Could we talk about Tom one day when he's back? I don't know. He's not there at the moment, but he appears now and again on our meetings, and I have no contact with him because he's in the UK. Couldn't he be a kind of ambassador from our group to kind of, I don't know, because a physical presence, because he's there in the UK, might be more interesting than an email or a Zoom call. I don't know.
It might work. We could explore it. The problem is that Roger appears to be like a block of granite, and so he needs a kind of strong personality to get through. You know, otherwise it just becomes an interesting suggestion was a meal that went nowhere. You really have to assault Roger. I would prefer to do it on a Zoom call on that, because you really have to hammer him. You have to insult him.
No, and I don't mean that Tom could do all the things that you can do, but what I mean is that you might be able to lure him into considering the trip to meet you as you see. I mean,
as a follow-on thing. Yeah, if that was the only aim. Yeah. But I didn't give credence to getting far. Just letting Tom be the.
What we want is to get him on the boat, to get him with you for a few days. So we should try to focus around how to get him there. Once he's there, well then, let go.
If we do that, then Tom should have the meal, and then we should have the meeting online with him. If the meal goes well, then we should have the meeting online, and then do the boat.
The meal online with him.
Well, like this forum, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how to contact Tom, or?
No, I don't know.
No,
I can't.
You probably watch this video. So if you watch it, then if you're up for doing the dinner in London,
he's the only one in the UK that has appeared on this call, I think.
Yeah.
And
I might have one or two other people in London that could do it if he can't do it, but it would be good if he did it. Yeah.
Now there's starting to be restrictions for English travelers, because some of them will have to observe quarantine on return. I heard that from people who had to cancel trips because of the COVID, the Delta thing in England. So we're in a situation that's a little bit volatile at the moment as for traveling. So that might be another aspect to consider.
Yeah, couldn't you message Tom on Reddit? You could message Tom on Reddit.
Is Andor? What is it? Andor, right? Is it?
I think I know. I
don't
know
know
what it is. I can guess. I can message you his user ID. I think I can guess, because he posted some things that he said, so I could tell that was him that posted a post about some topic.
There's also Twatladder as well. Might also. I think he's in London. In fact, I think he's met Roger actually in person.
May I ask, are there no other leaders in your mind, Hugh, that are on the same level of charisma and influence as Roger? I mean, would Gail Bradbrook be an equal no, yeah, like on the same footing, or maybe not?
Yeah, I always thought that I saw Gail with this other guy who I can't remember what his name is. Hui, I think. Maybe I'm confusing it because he was into Wu Wei, very much into Wu Wei, but he's a Chinese guy and he has ancestors from the Boxer Rebellion and stuff. And I saw a video of Gail talking to him, and he was essentially trying to do kind of a movement jack. And I got that impression. Please forgive me for this, but I just thought Gail's too scattered. You can't make any progress with Gail because she's just too all over the place.
Okay.
Anybody from XR, from a member of XR on the Reddit or Discord group that we're in, who's actually been in XR for a long time, that could just, I don't know.
Yeah, anyone actually. But yeah, the whole point of this is really a movement jack to try and you can get through to Roger. You can movement jack the whole of Extinction Rebellion because basically the step one would be for him to take ownership of it again because it's completely in the weeds now. So yeah, the whole thing that motivated the name Extinction Rebellion, the symbol, and Roger are very valuable assets in the climate movement. So if you can, I mean, as they stand, they're completely wasted. They're chucked in the bin. They're just trashed. So it seems to me such a shame. I just thought it would be really nice to resurrect them because they're completely useless now. I mean, they're going to make as much effect as the Rotary Club. So it just seems such a shame to me to let it go that route when it had so much potential. And I think personally I feel I could help them with strategy and really make some awesome thing out. But they're so close to doing an ARG. They it seems tailor made. They just got some rough edges. So it seems worthwhile investing a bit in it. To me, that was where I was coming from on it. But yeah, I mean, in terms of other people, it's very valuable having a sigil like that and then a name like that and stuff. It's those things don't come together all that often. I mean, can you think of other people in that kind of position? It's you see, Roger's not owned by anybody. Most guys that reach prominence, it's all manufactured. Like Greta is completely manufactured. I mean, it's not her fault, but I mean, but most people that take the stage are puppets. And Roger's rare because he's not a puppet, and Gail's not a puppet either. But the vast majority of guys that reach prominence in climate activism are purely manufactured. They're just greenwashed. So
The concept of an ARG seems more familiar to younger people, or people say that are um, like, it's a bad word probably to say, like a tech geek or a nerd. Maybe people in IT or AI, or so I'm wondering if XR has a subunit or a branch that consists of people who are more technologically maybe savvy or advanced, or and I don't know how Roger, if he has a trusted advisor that takes care of like web campaigns, or I'm just thinking if
but
that
what you're
person
saying is that we
could
need
also
more
be
intelligence.
contacted.
We need more intelligence in XR. We need to meet more people and understand a little bit more the structure and where the doors to knock on. Maybe is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what we tried to
Yeah.
do with the. Sorry, Risa, go ahead. Sorry.
No, this is A, but I'm done. That
Oh, sorry,
basically just
A. Right.
to contact people who are more like younger people who know that psyops is the wave of the future, or is happening already, or ARGs or games. Like folks like Mike's age, they might be more into that, and if Roger had a trusted person like that, then maybe he would be reachable that way. I don't know how XR is structured.
It's a
Yeah,
good
we
idea.
sent a. Oh, go on. It's all right.
I was going to say that that's the reason why I'm so keen to contact Jeff Hull, because he's on the edge of the latitude instant, and those guys get the whole deal. So it basically, if they're active and doing stuff, we could fold our project into theirs even.
Or maybe a meeting that also has Jeff Hall and Roger. Wouldn't that be a dream meal meeting?
Yeah, that would be a dream. Maybe that's a target. That's a good idea.
Yeah, set our sights even higher and harder.
No, it might just be a magic formula. That actually, can you imagine Jeff Hull trying to explain ARGs to Roger? Wow.
That might take weeks.
Yeah, but
Weeks on
it
the
would be
boat. That'll be
weeks well
fun.
spent, I think. Yeah. Okay. What do we do next to get that going? What's the
I
next
don't
step?
know. I
I
don't
think
know.
we just
What's the bait for Jeff and Roger to get on a
I think
platform?
Jeff.
You have to find what they're going to be interested in, because they
Well,
are really appealing
Jeff
to.
always struck me as kind of easy because he completely gets the ARG thing. He's doing what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, but
So
a guy like Roger, with his background and his, I don't see it. We'd have to think and
I'd
discuss.
say from my experience,
Yeah.
just knock on all the doors you can. I
ah,
mean, from my experience, I've just looked on websites and checked their emails, and at this point, since we're brainstorming, maybe find connections to their connections. So if
yeah,
someone knows Jeff Hall, like the guy who worked with him, who in the Jejun Institute and the Latitude Society, maybe talk to them first, and then see how they can get in touch with Jeff Hall. So yeah, that's the only thing I can think of at this point.
I think there are a lot of splinter groups from the Latitude Institute, so we could work our way up the network. Yeah.
Want to do
Yeah.
that for
Okay.
Roger too? Like you want to try to get people who know Roger and try to get through that way too, or
I have tried. I mean, there's Ramon, who's like the co-founder of Burning Pink, and he talks to me. But the problem is, Roger's just, you know, very hard to get hold of. Very
would
hard to get Roger's attention.
would he be alert? I don't like the word, but into a meeting, for example, with a figure like Leah Keith or Derek Jensen, or would he completely be on the other? Because those names could. I mean, we've already talked to them. They're happy to talk with us. We've discussed bright green lies. It's a topic that's we could just. I mean, have him on the same platform and then see from where it leads us. I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
that.
it might be a kind of dating game, but yeah. Okay, well let's. Okay, so I'll take as kind of an action item to take the Ramon route and try and go through that way to Roger, and then Mike, you're already doing a bit with the Jeff Hull thing, trying to get through
Yeah,
that.
I'll see if I can get through his other associates. Yeah, I could try to get through Jeff Hall.
what else should we do then? Does anybody want to take on trying to get Leah or
Well, I can try. What I can try is that I've got a lot of contacts in the permaculture movement in the UK, and maybe among all these people that I know, there might be, because I know Roger's been in farming, and I mean by that way, by that back door. But to get a contact, that's all I could do, because I have no idea how to get. I need to think about Lier and Derek, how to. Mike, they're easy to contact, are they, Lier? And
Yeah, on their website they have
they're
an
easy at
email.
the moment, don't they?
Yeah, they have a contact. Yeah, you can anyone.
Yeah.
They're easy to contact actually.
Okay,
Leah and
let me think about that.
but yeah, they're easy to contact. But are we trying to get them at the same interview as Roger? So should we try to get Roger before? I mean,
That's
Lear and the rest of DGR, they're pretty easy to contact.
Yeah, but you see, if we could manage to get Lear or Derek or both, or to agree, or even what's his name, Max, even
Oh, I see.
to 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 see would they be interested in talking to a leader of XR without our agenda having to be completely divulged, and just go from there. And then
Got it.
if they accept, then we could contact Roger Hallam and say, well, we'd like to set up a meeting with Deep Green Resistance and on our platform, and would you be interested? And
Okay.
I don't know. That's just little.
No, it's good. I think it's let's do it. It's good.
So contacting Lear and Derek first, and then Roger Allen, if they agree. The symbol XR is, yeah, the name XR might be a good.
So are we thinking Derek, Lear, and Max? You think they're solid?
Or I don't know, would the three be able to be on the same thing
Oh
together?
no, yeah.
But one of
But at
them,
least one of them.
and then if they all agree that you or me, if we can contact each other afterwards, Mike. But if we can tell them we're trying to set up a meeting with a UK leader, Roger Allen, with them, we'd be interested to facilitate that, and then see. I mean, see would they agree first?
Yeah.
And then take it from there.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Roger knows these guys, probably. Well, I don't know. The UK.
I don't think they in his neck of the woods.
I don't know. You see, we think, because we know Deep Green Resistance and we've been reading their books, but these guys are not very known in Europe.
Yeah, no, I don't think Roger would know them, because it's not in the UK scene. It's kind of outside.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you see. But yeah.
So the other thing is,
yes,
Roger's probably long since shifted his focus from the concerns of people like Lear and Derek over to just his organising and what he's doing. He's sort of, in a sense, he's probably stopped being a doomer and just become an organiser, and just sort of left that behind to focus on what he's doing.
So then we have to contact Eric.
So A says that Tom's Reddit user ID is Twocky. TWOCKY.
Do you think it's good to have Eric and Roger get in contact just to?
No,
make?
I mean, like putting chlorine and glycerine together without any nitrogen.
Just to warm things up and then get. I don't know.
That would be like a bomb or a fire conflagration.
Well, let's see. We've had a few people that you have interviewed quite a few very interesting people, and we've met with a few interesting people. Now, who would be the people that Roger would be the most likely to interested to interact with, and then there's been quite a few. Like you haven't interviewed Jem Bendel yet.
I just
I
drowned in
thought
saccharin. Oh god.
I thought Max
Couldn't do it.
Wilbert was the most action-oriented one, so that
Yeah,
might appeal to Roger. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought Max would do well with Roger too.
I
That
think
that
so.
would go
I think
good.
so. And Max seems to know quite a bit about what's going on in Europe, more than Leah and Derek, who are focused on different. Max, yeah, Max and Roger seem to be the best. No, but Jim Bendel.
I mean, what's the point of talking to Jem Bendel? It's like
just to get Roger Allen.
navel-gazing narcissist. It's like, what the hell?
Just to get Roger Allen to talk with us. That's all.
Oh,
I'm just scheming.
Between Jem Bendel and Roger is Rupert Reed.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember all the people who have. Well, certainly not Kevin anyway.
Kevin and Roger.
I'm just.
Kevin and Jem Bendel. That would be the one. I would stay up towards that.
Yes, but
you can do that. Keep that for Christmas or something.
It will be our Christmas special.
Why not?
I'm just here just to go back a bit, where you said that we should sort of not just let the result of the auction shrivel away. As a first action might be just to contact Tom and just say, hey, Roger owes us a dinner and none of us are in England. You know, do you just send an email to Burning Pink and say, I'm the man, and you know, I'm taking the dinner with Roger. When's it happening? Just see if we could just draw him out that way first. As a, and of course, all right. So, well, do you want to contact Tom, or who's going to be the best person to contact? You know, I mean, I can do it, I suppose.
Do you mind
or
contacting Tom? Yeah. You could always just direct him to the video and say, did you watch this?
Sorry, were you talking to me? Sorry,
Yeah, do you mind contacting Twaki and just
saying, I'll just say, are you so and so? And if you are, we need you.
But you could just direct him to the video.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
You could just direct him to the video, say like, this is the discussion.
As soon as Mike posts it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, that's probably the end of that subject.
And I would be happy if we go to a second level to write a message to Max to ask him, would he be interested if we were setting up a video where we'd like to interview?
Yeah, definitely. I think we should do both. Yeah,
I think that could be just a start, and because I had a good feeling about Max, and I think he might be, and he might be appealing to a guy like Roger because he's an activist, and all that.
That's fine. I have his contact, so I'll just shoot him a text and say, are you interested in
Max's, and I'll concoct a message and I'll send it back to you all and you tell me what you think.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's two things now that
I don't. Would it be worthwhile posting something on Extinction Rebellion and just getting a discussion going about sort of more like down this alley way, saying that nothing's working?
Why don't we post the video we did with Max, because it's absolutely.
I did. Yeah. I did.
You posted it on Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah.
Okay, and did it get a good?
No, they don't. They don't like stuff like that. They like, whales have been beached, or something about polar bears, and then it goes to the moon. No,
Yeah, but
not kittens. No, not kittens.
I know, but the is XR's platform is Reddit their main social media thing, or where?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook, actually.
And I'm not on that thing.
No, neither am I.
No, because it might be worth maybe if somebody could put a link on their Facebook with Max, just to throw it out there. No, I don't know. What do you think?
I could have I'm on Facebook, but not as myself. We just put a link to the. That's my.
That's very.
Don't reveal who it is.
No. Well, because people try to find people on Facebook, and I just wasn't interested in being found. So, from day one, it wasn't my name and it wasn't my birthday and all the rest of that kind of shit, you're supposed to put there. So I'll have a look at that. I honestly haven't been. It's just you put on the Facebook page, and it's just like this looking into a kaleidoscope of little things flashing, and God, it's a disaster area. It's just absolutely designed for mass distraction. I'll have a look at it and see if I can put the Max Wilbert link there. Yeah. Mm.
Okay. So, is that the end of that topic, or the Roger topic?
Yeah. I guess. Look, we've got something to do. There's probably not much point trying to talk about it. Just see what happens with. Well, first, I guess with Tom, and second with Sophie. Lining some people up. Sophie and Mark.
That's only supposing that Roger would accept a meeting with Max. I mean, we're just throwing it to Max first, but see after that the other side.
Yeah, I don't feel hopeful about it. I think Roger's in his little world where he's just I could just as soon as he sent back the first reply and said, "Oh no, I'm busy organising and I'm worried about the virus," and I thought, "Oh God, it's as though it didn't matter what else happened in the world." He would still say the same thing. An asteroid's going to hit and demolish half the planet. I'm busy organising, and I'm, that's. It just really got that impression that no matter what you said, it was just going to be the same every time, and you wouldn't get in. But we've got to try, I suppose.
It's worth a punt.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I want to tell you this story that happened to me last night, which is really off topic, but I met a friend and had dinner with her last night, and she said, well, she's in terribly bad health. She got vertigo, and has her diet, and she has to watch her diet and everything, special diet and stuff. What happened was she got a blood clot in her balance canal in her ear. And I said, oh, really? Did you have the jab? And she said, funny you mentioned that. It was the day after the jab. I thought, oh, fuck. Anyway, just a little anecdote, but I just thought, we just got to discussing how many people are out there that they just say, oh, it's nothing, they're just not correlating it with that. They just say, oh, it's something else. It's how many people, I would like to know how many blood clots anomalies there are out there.
There's thousands reported at the moment, thousands, but there's no real paper written. There's a few papers, but they're not in the forefront. I sent you a private message about intelligence I got from a GP here with that 5 was it 3 or 5 cases of neurological complication in patients after having the jab, and you'd never see that occurrence. It would take 5 to 10 years to see the frequency of that particular type of pathology. We're in a completely uncharted territory there, and the doctors I don't think they want to, I don't know, they don't want to take risks, and their hands are tied with that vaccine campaign where we are anyway, and they're not going to question the line of the government.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, what I was going to say was where my mother is in a nursing home, they're prioritising vaccinations for elderly people. And the nursing home asked my sister and I to authorise the vaccination for my mother. Well, Sophie, you know about this at any rate. We spoke about it. And then, so we did. We said yes, discussed it. And then, of course, that was about the time you were doing all Kevin McCann came on the scene, and the other people who are in this Vanden Bosch, forgetting the name of the other fellow, Michael Yaden, and there was one other one, the Indian fellow, as well. And of course, so I revisited that with my sister and said, hey, I want to discuss this again. And then we decided, no, we're going to withdraw the permission for her to have the vaccination. And it's very interesting because last week I got an extremely officious looking letter from the Australian government. Dear Mrs., my mother, this is a letter from the big guys, and we're very concerned that you haven't had your vaccination, and it's got it just went on and on and on with this, really trying to intimidate. I mean, it would sort of make a person feel very intimidated that, we're recommending this and we're doing this for your well-being and the benefit of the country and all this. It was just the most remarkable effort in sort of, just trying to sort of, I guess, hoax people into it. And especially it would be, you could imagine letters like that sent to elderly people who might be actually quite upset by it, that they would then go ahead and get their vaccination and croak the next day or something. But, that's my little story anyway.
I don't give them much credit for coming clean with this. If the statistics are a bit anomalous, I would give a 50-50 chance that they'll suppress it to start on, because their track record is bad. Like, for example, in the UK, there's one classic example of the pea soup fog. That there used to be pea soup fogs in London, and there was one particular one that killed, it was in the 50s, I think 51 or 52, and thousands of people died. And it was because, Battersea Power Station and all these places were pumping out coal fire, and there was like this green miasma that came and crept under the doors. They told everybody to stay indoors and to seal the doors. And but it still came in. People talk about how this kind of green gas came under the door. And yeah, it killed thousands and thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people. And it's, I think to this day, there's a D notice on it. You're not allowed to talk about it. But it was a government fuck up that killed tens of thousands of people, and no one in London or Britain knows about it. So it's, if they do a government fuck up like that, historically, they've always suppressed it with the D notices and stuff like that. So I think we're in one of those cases where they would conspire to keep it secret, and it would all be done behind the closed doors. They would send circulars around to hospitals and stuff to let them know, but they would all be told to keep quiet, that it's been a disaster. But it's possible if there were masses of long-term effects. But all the stuff I'm seeing is they're saying it's almost Orwellian, the campaign, to say it's been a huge success. We defeated the pandemic, and amazing hype about how successful this has been. And it's like, I'm not seeing it myself.
We are just the guinea pigs in the cage discussing the effects. We're just, that's what we are. That's all, you know. And the ones who have escaped, you know, but we are the guinea pigs. Humanity is a big load of lab rats at the moment.
Yeah, but it could take years and years and years before that kind of thing surfaced. Historically speaking, it can take decades of mining, and thousands of people can know. They're just not allowed to talk about it, and the press doesn't say anything about it. So it could well be have one of those situations.
Oh, sorry. I'm having a seniors moment. I forgot.
Well, that's one of the symptoms.
That's one of the. Yes, it's all right. It's come back in a flash of inspiration. I should have posted it on XR Med, but it was a recent newspaper article of the Australian Prime Minister in the G7 meeting, which is going on or just recently gone on, talking about this brave new world of vaccines, where from now on we're aware of all the bottlenecks in producing new vaccines and bringing them to the point where they can be used, and we should now be able to get this down to just 100 days for a new vaccine from the time of appearance of the next virus. And they're quite happy to just say that there's definitely going to be the next pandemic kind of thing. And so, you know, we're going to get this turnaround period of 100 days. And like on the one sense, it was pie in the sky. On another level, though, it was just a further indication of how absolutely reckless they are. They're just going to, you know, I mean, producing a vaccine in 100 days seems to me more like just pulling a rabbit out of a hat and throwing it at people. You know.
Yeah, but this is more than stupid. Think of this. Imagine, you know, states doing an arms race with bioweapons. Now, if they know that somebody will immediately sequence a new strain and put out a vaccine within 100 days, it's well within their capability to make sure that the vaccine is the thing that gets you. So, you know, 100 days would mean that you had no testing. You just sequenced the damn thing and then released it so that people started making antigens. But knowing that, a bioweapons researcher could trick you into doing a vaccine that would be damaging. Because, for example, they might put in a snippet of HIV or something. Now, if you just willy-nilly just copied the latest pandemic virus and didn't know what any one of the parts of the virus did, or, you know, you would take out that snippet, which might be HIV or immune system compromising, and you would make a vaccine that would do all the damage. So these guys are fucking crazy because, you know, basically it's an arms weapons biorace, so it's like a chess game. And so they're signaling that they will do a rash chess move. And you can say, well, I can set up a trick where you'll be tricked into making a move that'll be devastating for the entire population. So it's beyond stupid. It's beyond stupid.
But we know they are crazy. It was really amazing is that all the people who knew that pre-COVID, and a lot of people I know who knew that we're run by psychopaths, that the big corporations are rotten to the core, and that there's corruption and bribes in the medical journals and world, have suddenly turned into worshippers of the powers it to be because of the COVID and the vaccine. And they've totally relinquished all sense of critic now. And there's a very few people. Now, we are censored. We're saying things today that could be maybe, you know, make the video be taken off YouTube.
Jesus. What a world. So they're actually going to censor you for speculating that basically something could go wrong on a massive scale. It's like the absolute arrogance and unconscionable overreach of things like YouTube and these guys. It's just like, guys, think it through. You cannot be so certain of yourselves that, imagine your culpability if these things turned out to be like the worst conspiracy theory, and you culpable for actually censoring or talk about it. It's unbelievable.
How can people trust something that is censored online? I mean, the moment when you say that there's censorship on a subject, anyone should just suddenly like wake up and say, okay, I'm not allowed to say what I think about this. But nobody's, so.
Yeah, well, it's like, surely, yeah, I mean, that's the way I feel, that's the way I'm built, is saying, like, how will you have the trust to go ahead with this if they censor any disinformation about it? I mean, there's your suspicions right there. It's like, it's unbelievable that people are not suspicious.
We're experiencing firsthand the result of fear in controlling people. This is a live experiment. It's just extremely, it's happening. I can't even.
So this is,
but it's happening.
Well, this is what Naomi Klein talks about, the shock doctrine, and so they've used this tactic ever since. I mean, Iraq, the shock and awe was exactly this. It was designed to cow the population so that when the tanks rolled in, they were passive, and it works. You just have to do big shock and awe things, and everybody whimpers so loudly that you can do anything you want after that. It's basically management by crisis. I mean, I've seen managers do this in corporations. They deliberately provoke it. It's called management by crisis. They deliberately provoke a crisis and then basically do whatever they want to do as supposed to be for mitigating the crisis. And it's a standard management technique. And here they're using it on us on a vast scale. But it's one of the worst management techniques known to man, because you can only use it so many times before people wise up to the fact that you're a complete bastard and you're manufacturing crises for no reason at all. And then you'll never get them back again. You'll never get their trust. You'll never get their morale up again. So, yeah, it's a very short term.
Yeah, but if you don't get the vaccine, you won't be able to go on holidays, and you won't be able to go to big football matches, and you won't be able. So that's what I hear people saying, and that's it. And they just hunkering down. My brother who traveled to Greece last week to see my sister, who's not far from you, where you are, and I said to him, "You got the vaccines?" "Oh, well, yes, I want to be able to take a plane." It's like, what?
But you kind of have to hold back the thought, like, that you really wish that something would go drastically wrong, because these people need to be taught a lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, some part of me wishes that these people get the lesson of a lifetime out of this, because you can't trust these psychopaths as much as everybody does. It's like they need an education, and I kind of hoping. I mean, nobody wants billions of people to get hurt, but I mean, Jesus, do they ever deserve it? It's unbelievable. Just the way I feel. I mean, surely you can't. Don't you find you have to push that thought back to the back of your mind, thinking like,
yes,
people deserve a lesson?
Yes.
I mean, yes. I agree, especially in cities. It's like that's just the prevailing thought. I mean, I feel, I don't know, people in the country, I have a feeling they have some leeway because they don't have to deal with all the stress of civilization right then and there. But yeah.
But you see, I did that post saying that that's a kind of a guide for you. It's basically, it's an indicator to say, do you need to have, sign these documents? Do you need passports? And that's the universe's little hint that you shouldn't be doing this. It's you're saying anything that requires this is a strong hint that it's not good for you. You should use it as a so. For example, if you can't get on a plane without a jab, that's a strong indication that you shouldn't be flying on a plane. I can't go to a football match. That's a strong indication that you shouldn't be going to football matches. It's the opiate of the masses.
It was interesting, just to going back to what when you first started, Sophie mentioned, we can go to the football match and all this kind of thing. There was a survey done, and it said that the public acceptance of the vaccination, a positive feeling about it, was the highest in Israel and the UK. But if you think of Israel, they were the ones who seemed to have the most draconian requirements, of what you wouldn't be allowed to do if you didn't have the vaccine. In other words, they were really being heavily coerced to have it. You would think that would ring alarm bells, that people would think, well, if they're pushing this so hard, maybe we have to think about why they're doing that. But it's just thinking about what Hugh just said about the military situation, where what they seem to have done is that the Israeli people have decided that, well, that we have to decide that we're in favour of it, because otherwise we've got to have a dangerous thought, which is that we're being coerced into having something we don't want. So the kind of positive public opinion about it is a bit of a fallacy.
Yeah, this dangerous kind of double think where I think a lot of people are thinking, if I trust you, then you'll be nice to me, okay? Which is like, you can't say that to a government. But talking about Israelis, I went with some Israelis, and they flew back to Israel to get the jabs and stuff, so they really believed in it. But I had this conversation about being on Facebook and publishing all their stuff on Facebook. And so I said, I'm not on Facebook. I don't do that shit. And they said, why the hell not? And then, the obvious. And they said, but we've got nothing to hide. It doesn't matter if they have all our information. It doesn't matter if the state has it or Zuckerberg has it, or because, if you've got nothing to hide, what are you worried about? And that argument, which I thought was very strange for Jews to have, because it's like, what? I'm Jewish. Why don't I just register with the Nazis? I've got nothing to hide. I'm a law-abiding citizen that pays my taxes. It's like, wow, to hear that out of a Jewish person's mouth.
That's precisely what they did in France during the German occupation. They asked all the Jews to go and register nicely and kindly, and there was nothing. Just they had to have that on their ID card. And a few weeks later, they had to have a star. And a few weeks later, they had to be rounded up. And a few weeks later, they were relocated to labor camps. And it's, that's you give your information and gently you're led down. Doesn't happen with boots and guns. It happens like that.
Yeah, it happened in Yugoslavia the same way. And the Yugoslavian Jews were particularly law-abiding. So basically, they set up the infrastructure for their own demise because they obeyed all the law from the beginning. But their thought was exactly that if we obey the law, then they'll have no reason to go after us. They're like, no, that's not the way this works. But I mean, just think about it. All the guys in XR. They all registered and doxed with their correct names, and they're like all the contributions to XR. They don't even have Bitcoin or anonymous contributions and stuff. It's all like, oh, we're all above ground. It's like, yeah, you think things can't go south enough that they will look up what you did in 2020 or 2018 and just do a little background check to see whether you should be put on a list later. It's like, Jesus, dudes, how can you be so stupid and trusting?
Yeah, but even even this, what we're doing now, you know, I remember once you said about, you know, the computers ticking away in the background that are just piling up a little bit of data against you, and a little bit more and a little bit more over a period of years until it rings an alarm bell, and then you get a visit in the middle of the night, you know, and it might just be, you know, X number of meetings with Lord Hugh because he's a known something or other, you know.
No, we're just
And,
organizing a game. We're just planning an art. That's all.
No, but you see, no, but you see
Yeah.
the bit that's the cognitive dissonance here, right? Is the idea that you can do civil disobedience, you can do things against the law, and you can all have it registered, and it'll all be okay. The thing, you see, it doesn't matter if you have these discussions now, because they, you know, basically discussions about aspiration and not about operational implementation. So you can have aspirational conversations like this. It doesn't matter that they have you on the list or anything like that. There is still some vestige of law. So they have to prove that you've done something, and they have to connect you to a particular crime. So that's the art. What's wrong with XR is they're doing the crime, they're doxing themselves, and they think this is going to have no consequences. It's like, no, you stupid fucks. It's going to wreck your life. It's basically, you should think of it this way. It's okay to have the conversations that we want. The reason why they go to a lot of trouble to intimidate you, most of surveillance is intimidation. You know, in shops and things like that, most of the cameras are fake. So in any Opticon, you can trust that the surveillance isn't a tenth of what it's advertised to be. And the idea is to intimidate you. So you don't want to stop having conversations like we're having, because that means you've been intimidated. What you need to get into the mindset is, we have these conversations, but they cannot be connected to any activity you do. So that's the whole point of getting out of this group obsession and stuff. If you do an action as a lone wolf, they still have to catch you, and they still have to prove that that was you and connect it to the conversation. And basically, the conversations we have are vacuous. We're not breaking any laws until you start saying something specific, or there was some specific action. So what they do out of these things is they find a group like this with aspirations. Then they do a sting operation. They take the results of the sting operation, and that's how they prosecute you. So they use all the surveillance, then they find some little old lady and say that she shopped you, but it's all done by surveillance. But they do sting operations, or otherwise try and find somebody that actually did an operation, and they try and single out the weakest one and get them to break and be a witness. So it's basically, you don't want to get the lesson that you mustn't have these conversations. That's bollocks. You do want to have these conversations, and they can't do a fuck all about it. So get in there and have them. 2, you've got to do effective action that is completely decoupled from these conversations. So it doesn't matter that they know that you're the worst dissident in the world until they can connect you to some action. So that's the thing that basically is broken in the movement. The guys are doing action right in the open. It's like, no, you fuckwits, you can't do that. Well, how stupid are you? So yeah, they don't have conversations, but then they do the action in the open. It's like fucking upside down, assholes.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, I'm not trying to pick an argument, but, you know, like if you read a newspaper article, oh, you know, somebody's done somebody's, you know, shot somebody, what, you know, they go into things like that Christchurch shooting, and they go into the fellows. Oh, but his internet search record shows that he was looking up, you know, stuff about guns or you know, anti-Islamic material, and, you know, which could, you know, it is disconnected. It's not evidence, you know. I mean, you might have a very large collection of Agatha Christie novels, but that doesn't make you a murderer. you know, so, but they bring all that kind of circumstantial crap in to paint a black picture.
Yeah, so you see what the danger with big data is they can mine all that data and they can see, you see, what they're trying to do is they're trying to find people that say go postal. Now, if you mine big data, you can see a progression, and they're trying to see the progression. They're trying to see that this guy is getting more and more radical, and then basically he's lost his job, and his wife filed for divorce, and he's got a big tax bill and stuff, and then he goes out and buys a weapon. And buying the weapon is a trigger that the big data can read, saying this is something that looks fishy. And so they can get an active, what they're trying to get to is to, you know, whatever that Minority Report movie was, where they can predict in advance that you're about to do something. So first off, if you know that, then it becomes impossible for them to do that anymore. If you know that what they're looking for and understand how the surveillance and big data is munging this kind of thing, and it's just like any woman getting pregnant. They can see your tastes change. They can see in the data your shopping habits, your music choices, all of these things suddenly trigger, and they say, "Oh, well, this girl must be pregnant." The same happen. They're trying to get to the same with people doing stuff like you know, ecotage. Now, if you have a game or something like that, like we're doing, it's completely murky. So the thing is not to be squeaky clean, because otherwise you'll go to the gas chambers. The thing is not to be in completely above ground, because otherwise you're a fucking moron. And the thing is to understand the systems and A, know them, and B, basically use them. But the mere fact that they're doing this kind of surveillance means you can give false signals all the time. And then and then it's friggin' obvious. If you do something as a lone wolf, they'll never get you. They have to catch you red-handed, or you have to do something really stupid. But all the lone wolves have got caught.
Bye
What?
bye.
Okay, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
But all the lone wolves and stuff like Timothy McVeigh and stuff, all of them are patsies. You know, everybody from Lee Harvey Oswald to Timothy McVeigh and these are patsies, and so they were all operating with other people, and they were all marked as the fall guy. They weren't really lone wolves.
Can I introduce a new topic? Just
Sure.
Or it's just I was looking on the channel that Torstein's got, ARG Collapse, where he posted one of Sam Mitchell's Collapse Chronicles videos, and I haven't listened to Sam for quite a while, so I went over to listen to just look at what Sam has been up to lately. And he's introduced there's a new fellow, a young fellow he's now got working for him, or not working, but, you know, working with him, doing the weekly interviews that Sam used to do until probably, you know, a few months ago or a year ago. And so Sam did a introductory video with this guy, and I watched the first interview, which was with John Michael Greer, if I've got his name right, you know, the Druid fellow, and
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This young guy's up to a pretty high standard here. So I sent a message to Sam and said, "Can you put me in contact with him?" And to my amazement, Sam agreed. I've tried to get through with Sam on other occasions, you might remember, ages ago, and failed. It was a bit hard to sort of get to sort of get a foot in the door with Sam, even though he knew kind of must have vaguely known who I was after a long period of time hanging around. But yeah, I'm just wondering, like you were talking earlier about, you know, how the YouTube views had declined, you know, when the virus came on, and it's I don't know. I'm just in a bit conflicted, because when you were talking about Hank being sort of wanting to publicize you all over the place, and you were not quite comfortable with that. But if I get in contact with this fellow, would you be interested in an interview with him? And I was also thinking more of just trying to interest him in coming along to these meetings or something. But I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah.
I was just going by things when he was talking to Greer, just little things that he would say now and then, which weren't expanded on very much. But you could see that he was obviously going to be sort of, you know, compatible with the kind of things that we were talking about. And actually, he's also here, like in Australia. So I'm hoping I can just ring him up and just have a conversation and just see what comes of it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sounds intriguing. Yeah.
Well, it could be a way to get a different, because you could see it. The thing with Sam is exactly what you've said. It's just this endless, repetitive poking at the doomer turd. I don't know, is it the phrase you used? And yeah, there was no sort of development in what Sam was doing. It was just the same. And he got this group of people who just want to stay with that kind of perpetual raking over it. It just got to a certain level and just remained there. It was just endless variations on the theme. And I'm just hoping that this new fellow can break out of that, you know, if we can sort of pervert the course of his mind and get the whole thing exploring, you know, being a bit more explorative and taking some new things into account.
Yeah, that would be nice. It would be really nice. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you know what happens anyway.
Okay, good. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah. I never watch McPherson or anything anymore for the same reason, that it just got to be the same old shit. never progressing anyway.
Yeah, well, I think, like with Sam, I think, you know, he's living a pretty full kind of life, and I suppose he just arrived at a certain level that he could sustain, and there wasn't the time or the energy to develop it any further, so it just stayed in his comfort zone rather than developing. But you know, with somebody else coming in now who may have the energy to move ahead, you know. Actually, I was rather hoping. I was actually thinking of Michael, because this fellow's he's 27, and you know, he's obviously like you. He's got energy, and you know, I mean, it could there could be some possibility there, you know. I'll try and put up a link to the video, you know, that Sam did, so you can have a look at any rate.
Yeah, anybody that's like-minded and stuff, because yeah, my whole shtick is that we're going to be heading for a really, really rough time in the next few years, and what, you know, resistance organizations are made in the time before, and they're not really, you know, always built to be, you know, kind of anti-Nazi before the Nazis get to power or something. They're often tangential things and adjacent kind of, you know, like-minded individuals. So it's more important to have a group, a network of like-minded individuals, and you decide, you know, once you've got a core, you can decide what to do afterwards, but you have to build that core up over many years, I think. It doesn't work when you just get do what XR did, and you get a whole lot of people together who're just going to do some crazy ass shit. It never works.
Yeah, well, it was what I thought when I first encountered this was I wasn't really thinking about it. It was just going, and I thought, no, I just was really struck by I just said, I've got to contact this guy. It just like, it was just not something that was thought about. It was just, I just realized, it wasn't as though, we're looking around for someone to lure into our little cult or whatever, however you want to put it. And I thought, look, that might be a good guide to whether this is worth doing. If it's just come to me, some little voice is just saying, hey, this guy is worth following up, then that might be a good indication, because it's coming from a place of just coming to you rather than something you're trying to set out and do.
Yeah, those are the best things. Those little voices inside are the best. Yeah. Well, we've gone on quite a long time, haven't we? 2 hours, I think.
Is that enough for one day? Because you and Mark have been talking for a long time as well.
Yeah, I think that's enough for one day. We've earned our merit badge for today, for this week.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then let's do the thing. Let's do the thing and pause and just go out. Okay. So let's fall still, spine straight, feet evenly placed on the floor. Come to your senses. Om Paramatmane Namah. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks
Hugh.
everyone.
Okay. All right.
See you
Thank
then.
you then.
Bye.
See you later.
Next time.
Take
Okay.
care.